So what we're doing here is accessing the body's hydraulic system. This is something that I had heard Dharma Bodhi mention more than a handful of times in the time that I spent with him. And I believe this is what he was talking about. He's talking about using the change of pressure to generate power and motion in the body. And we've just seen how that happens, how you can do that, and you can use the breath to actually effortlessly loft the knee. But now let's take this same principle to the neck, which is probably the most important place for us to use this. So let me first talk about the conventional wisdom in modern science about motion of the body. That is, that muscles contract, like we said before, they get shorter, and that approximates or brings two bones closer together. So if we're looking again, just to review, looking again at a muscle that's attached up here and attached down here, when it gets shorter, and this muscle gets shorter, it's going to pull the arm up. Right? It's going to pull this bone towards this bone. By the same logic, if I want to side bend my head to the left, I'm going to shorten these muscles over here, these scalenes. I'm going to shorten these muscles. Trapezius too, I'm going to shorten them, and that's going to drag my head over here. If I want to go back this way, to the left, I'm going to shorten these muscles and drag my head back the other way. So, using this concept, using this understanding, I'm going to yank my head from side to side by shortening muscles. And I want you to notice this is the quality of the motion that's produced when I simply yank my head side to side. And it probably looks a little jerky, or at least it will relative to what I'm going to show you. And more importantly, it's loud inside my own head. I can hear popping and I can feel pinching, especially at the end ranges of motion. And I want to propose there's another way to move the body by accessing this hydraulic system. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine that my body is made out of two tubes, because it is. Actually, we discovered it here by filling one side of the body preferentially to the other side and alternating. So what I'm going to do is I don't want you to think of these tubes as expandable. They can get huge. They can really get as big as your imaginative capacity can tolerate. But they can get at least as big as your body. Right? And they can also shrink down and empty out and become completely empty and soft and supple. As soft and supple and as empty as a hollow piece of fishing line made of silk. So what I'm going to do when I want to side bend my head to the right, I'm actually going to fill the tube on the left. And as that tube expands, as that expansion comes up from below my foot even, as that tube expands, it's going to push my head to the right. And then when I want to go back to the left, I will collapse the tube back down and my head will fall into the empty space. And I will then, if I want to inflate the other side, I just fill this tube to go the other way. So first I'm going to bring back what it looks like for me to yank my head from side to side by contracting muscles. So this is what it looks like yanking my head from side to side. And now this is what it looks like if I fill the tube. So I'll empty all the way down, and then I'll fill up. And then as I empty, I just let my head come back to and through the center line. And about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way across, the place where I might have to yank to get my head to go further, that's when I fill up this tube. And I think what you might even see is that it looks like my head is coming up and out of my body, because it is. And when I empty, it comes back in to the center and collapses a little bit, because I'm a balloon. If I fill all the way up, I lift up. When I start to empty, I'm going to drop down a little bit. The most important thing, though, is that when I move side to side with the breath, it's quiet. I don't hear a bunch of popping and cracking in my neck, and it's very comfortable. It almost feels, it exactly feels like I have a second type of musculoskeletal support that I can access. It's not really muscle or skeleton, it's actually a pressure change. It's very analogous to, I don't know if you've ever seen these tents they have nowadays that you can turn on a pump and you don't have to have poles, tent poles. You can just turn on a pump and it fills these tubes, and then the filling of the tubes maintains the shape of the tent. They're a poleless tent, I guess they're called. But it's very similar. So you have these inflatable tent poles in your body that can offer you a different level of structure support and integration. We can do the same thing with rotation. It's actually probably even easier to feel it with rotation. So if I want to rotate this way, let me show you what it looks like to yank my head with my little sternocleidomastoid muscle. If I yank this, if I shorten this muscle, it pulls my jaw that way. If I want to go back the other way, I would shorten this muscle and yank my neck back that way, to the left. But this time, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to fill the tube. So I'm going to empty to the place where I might have to start to yank in order to go further, and then I'll fill up this side, the left side, to go right. And then as I exhale, my exhalation, the emptying of this side, drags my head back the other way. Then I fill this side to go, the right side to go back to the left. So I can actually give myself a little bit of internal traction with my breath, because as I fill up, the top of the balloon lifts up. So I give myself that little internal traction, and it creates an ease of movement. Combined with the pressure gradient change, now the neck muscles of my neck can act more like kite strings than like, I don't know what you call them, towing cables, right? They can act more like kite strings. And this reduces significantly the wear and tear on the body. So now we've taken a look at how we can start to access the body's hydraulic system. Let's look at how we can access it in the neck, which might well be the most important place to access it. So Rhiannon, I want you to go ahead and start filling one side preferentially to the other again. You know, engaging yes, filling up. And you might even be able to see on camera how the left side of her body right now is lifting more than the right, and now the right will lift more than the left. So like we said before, as you fill one side, what I want you to do is we're going to fill up this tube here on the left side to push your head over here to the right. I'm going to unweight your head so you don't have any friction underneath your head. But I want you to fill the tube, and as you fill the tube, I want you to see if you can use that. There you go. You feel how now you can use your neck muscles more like kite strings rather than cables yanking. Now empty this side all the way before you start to fill. So now fill up this right side, let it push your head to the left. Now it's just as important to empty as it is to fill, so your head just kind of falls back into the empty space as you exhale. And then fill all the way up and let it push your head deeper into, there you go, deeper into the side bend. And when that tube is full, it's actually supporting you. It's actually supporting you, and you probably notice that as you do this, it actually feels like the top of your head lifts away from the rest of your body, because it does. Now let's try the same thing with rotation. You're going to fill this left side of your body and look to the right, and feel how that drives your head over to the side rather than yanking it over your side by simply contracting your sternocleidomastoid muscle. So empty, 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 2/3 of the way across, 3/4, that's when you're going to fill. You're going to let yourself empty to and through the midline. About 2/3 of the way, you fill up and let that breath push your head into the extension, which is way more comfortable. Thank you, Rhiannon. I'm going to put your hand here. Just put the back of your hand on my neck. And I want you to see what it feels like. This is what it feels like for me to yank my head from side to side with my scalenes and my sternocleidomastoid muscles. It's very uncomfortable. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up this tube over here to push my head that way. So I'm going to exhale to the place where I'd have to start to yank, which is right about here, and I'll fill up over there. And you can probably feel that my neck actually gets bigger in size. And now I empty all the way to about 3/4 of the way across, 2/3, and now I'm going to fill up this side. So you can feel quite a significant difference in what it feels like to turn my head side to side if I fill with the tubes. Now let me also put it out there that it's also very important. It's very important that you fully empty the side, because if you don't empty it, now you have an obstacle to moving. Right? You have a block there, so you have to empty the side all the way. Remember, relax the whole side of the body so that the tube can be emptied, so that you can fill this one and let it take you deeper into the posture. So let's just kind of wrap this thing up a little bit here. Most important thing I want to make sure that I leave you with is that the most important instruction in the practice of breathing is to let it be easy. Let it be relaxed. Let it be softly expansive. Understand that the tension that you hold in the body wall does not allow the diaphragm to expand, it does not allow the diaphragm to move freely. It won't allow the diaphragm to squish everything down. It won't be able to absorb that pressure and let the diaphragm move. So relaxation is key. Any straining that you notice, just try to become aware of any straining you have when you're trying to practice breathing. And once you notice it, try to back off. Let it go, because it's going to interfere with the bigness of your breath. That's probably the most important thing when you're trying to learn complete yogic breath. And I really do feel like this is kind of essential to the practice of any other pranayama, is to first be able to find the relaxed breath, to find the whole diaphragm. And I also want to say that this is not that there will be no effort at all, right? Because even though we're trying to allow the universe to breathe through us, it's not that there will be no effort at all. It's just that there will be natural effort. You're only going to use what you have to use in order to get your best breath, and everything else is about surrender. And the only time that you have to effort is on inhalation. And the only muscle that you have to effort in is the thoracic diaphragm. You can engage the other muscles of the body, but when you're practicing breathing, I think it's very important to really try to focus on letting the thoracic diaphragm be the conductor of the symphony, and let everything else just go with the thoracic diaphragm. And I know that nowadays there's a lot of people talking about core strength, about squeezing Mula Bandha and lifting it forcefully and whatnot. But I think it's very important to practice breathing from this place of surrender and not efforting. Because I think that when you do, you're going to find that you can take advantage of the natural capacity. You can take advantage. I mean, nature is bigger and stronger than us, and if we go with it, it will augment our power. It will always augment our power. If we learn to allow the thoracic diaphragm to be the conductor of the symphony, and we allow the other diaphragms to come online spontaneously in response, we're going to get all of these diaphragms to work together. And I think that what you'll find is that as you relax, 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 and you feel all the other diaphragms and and the pelvic floor and the shoulder girdle and the thigh pits and the armpits, when you feel all of these diaphragms just naturally coming into rapport with one another, I think you're going to find that it produces a way more powerful sense of integration and center. Center being something deeper and stronger than core. I think you'll find that happens naturally without you having to try to make it happen. And a lot of times when we try to make it happen, we actually end up holding tension in the body that restricts our breathing. Now, what I want to leave you with is some things to contemplate. What we learned today was how to let ourselves breathe with all 18 diaphragms that I am aware of at this point. There are probably others. I have some suspicions about other anatomical structures and how they come into play. But as I understand it right now, we have 3 diaphragms in each extremity, 3 in the head, and 3 in the trunk. And they can all change the pressure gradient, as we've seen. They can all change the pressure gradient, so they can all participate in moving air and fluid. But the ability to change the pressure gradient, like we said, is just one of the many extraordinary capacities of diaphragms. A diaphragm is a sheet attached to a frame. Any sheet attached to a frame. So our diaphragms in our body can change the pressure gradient, just like a kite, or a sail, or a parachute, or a hot air balloon. Those are all diaphragms that change the pressure gradient to generate power and motion. The diaphragms have other capacities as well. We already mentioned another one of them. That's the capacity to ripple. Just like the surface tension of a body of water, the hydrogen bonding forms the surface tension on a body of water and the frame is the edge of that body of water. So that is a diaphragm as well. And it displays the capacity to ripple. And that is just a capacity that diaphragms have. Just like if you flip the parachute, it sends a wave. But if you contemplate, here's the beautiful thing, if you contemplate the many diaphragms that you experience in your external environment, you can just begin to appreciate that they are extraordinary, almost magical structures. And because we have the capacity to change the tension in our diaphragms in our body, they're made of muscle, so we can adjust the tension of them. We have all of those capacities within our own body. So I just want you to, as you go through the next few days and you come across these various things like a trampoline, a tennis racket, a drum head, the sheathing on a building or the subfloor, a catcher's mitt, a lacrosse stick. All of these are diaphragms. The eardrum is a diaphragm. So just like the drum head or the eardrum, diaphragms are excellent at absorbing shock. They can absorb shock. And just like, so that's why in martial arts, when they teach you to take some impact, they teach you to go, yeah, right? Because when you do, you engage the diaphragm and you can catch that impact into that diaphragm like a catcher's mitt, which is also a diaphragm. So I can, by engaging my diaphragm, I can absorb that shock there. I can transform it into a resonant frequency that will ripple to the edges of that diaphragm, just like a drum head. And it will pass through the body of the drum without causing any harm. So your diaphragms can help protect you from injury. They can also give you structural integrity, like the sheathing of a building. If you have a frame of a building, before it has that sheathing or the subfloor, it wiggles around. It's the sheathing that gives it structural integrity. That's why in California we retrofit the insides of the foundation walls to increase that building's structural integrity and ability to absorb shock. But all of these capacities are contained within your body. So that's just so cool. It's just so cool. So please, as you go about your day, anytime you get a chance, practice breathing. Start with your 9 breaths at least 9 breaths in the morning. Ideally, add some hands and feet, and then relax back into thoracic breathing and feel all that motion happening in those centers. And feel what it's like to breathe with your whole body. But then as you go out into the world, after you've practiced your breathing, occasionally fill yourself up during the day and get a good breath, get a good turnover of fluid. This is a wonderful thing to do for yourself. And when you see a diaphragm, just appreciate that those capacities are contained almost to a magical extent within your own body. So that's all I really have to say. I just want to close by thanking Piper Abbott for having me here at Burlington Yoga so we could film this and get this out to people. I want to thank David Abbott for doing all this video work. I want to thank Rhiannon Kim for letting me work with her on this video. And again, I want to thank all of my teachers, most especially Dharma Bodhi. And I want to thank you for listening to me talk for a while. Jai Hanuman, Jai Guru Dev. Have a great day.